just go and do it and see what happens.
Ideas are worth like jack shit, absolute jack shit. Like if you can't execute, there's nothing.
Just take that initiative to actually take whatever crazy ideas that they might have and just try to see what comes of it.
Don't be afraid of ambition. Chase it, love it, wrap your arms around it and say it out loud.
New Zealanders don't know any better. They will just get up and give it a shot. That's why we were first to get to the top of Mount Everest.
Go to dream that ultimate dream. Like, what is it that you ultimately want to do? And it's all achievable.
Today's episode tackles a question every parent is quietly asking. What does learning look like in the age of AI? We've got 4 conversations that build on each other, from the most human stakes possible, all the way to the workplace of the future. First up is Arash from Karatech, whose story shows how AI avatars are making education accessible to the deaf community for the first time.
So we are look like a content management system for an organization, but in sign language. A bank, hospital. Currently, we are focusing on education, especially in the US. So, for example, one of our customers, they said we have like 10,000 hours of content. It's practically not possible to use a human interpreters. Can you help us to make that accessible to ASL? Then we help you to design an avatar, which is exclusive to you. And that avatar or digital human has a sign name, it's a character, and it will connect to our system. And now all the system is now accessible to sign language. So that's one area. The other area is for emergency notification. In the United States, it's compulsory to make an emergency notification accessible to ASL. But sometimes it, like most of the time, it took 4 to 6 hours bring the human interpreters. And imagine like there was a shooting happening in the street. And like, oh, by the way, 6 hours ago, there was a shooting there. So if you, I don't know, don't go there. It's funny. It's a sad comedy that sometimes the things are not accessible. So with our tech, we can do it less than a minute.
More like practical level. I mean, a lot of the folks who are deaf, they understand these problems exist. Presumably they find workarounds and ways to get information and go to the bank and go to the hospital and get the emergency notifications, working around these constraints and not having translators, right? So is this actually a big enough problem? Like, I guess I've never heard of the problem until I met you. And like I'm just trying to understand and maybe help other folks. Because I think most people probably have never heard of this problem, because they're probably not familiar with anybody who's deaf. How do people get around this problem? And is it actually like a big problem?
I really suggest to watch a movie called Coda. I think they won Oscar 2 or 3 years ago. And it shows the challenge of everyday deaf community are dealing with that. The fact that sometimes that we are not aware, it shows how distant we are to that community. And it's very sad. Again, I was in academia, never see any PhD on engineering who are deaf. I was in a high-tech startups. I've never seen these people. And again, because of the distance that we have, which is very, very sad. Humans are finding a way to do things, right? But it's a responsibility of us to make sure that this is happening to the fairest way. Having access to, yes, there was a shooting event 6 hours ago. It's cool, but it's not fair. And we can use the technology to make a society which is more fair. Currently, a couple of deaf communities, they rely on so much on the kids. Imagine you go to hospital and you want to talk about things with your doctor, and you bring your kids who like sometimes 5 or 6 years old, and you have to ask these kids to translate that for you. They will do it willingly, but it's extremely unfair. It's extremely hard. Again, in case of emergency, they rely so much on other people to give them information and relative to give them information on time. It shouldn't be that way.
And there's a large percentage of deaf community that does not read, not able to read.
They are able to read, but the literacy is and reading speed is lower than the hearing community. It's not because the people who are deaf are not smart. It's the reason because it's different language. This is my favorite part, is the part that the caterpillar become a butterfly. So the English part is like, the caterpillar become a butterfly. Now let's look at it in sign language. How would you narrate it?
So there's like he just keeps going. He keeps going.
Yeah, he just keeps going.
So just 10 seconds of him illustrating the butterfly flying.
Yes, the people who are the translators, who are actually sometimes translating, is they are narrating the story and translating. That's why for narration, the AI in next 10 years cannot beat up humans in sign language.
We're seeing what he looks like on the screen, right?
Yes,
this is
so
the author. But the person who actually signed was a woman, and then you took that video and you overlaid that author's avatar over her.
Yes. So when
Okay,
you're
okay, okay.
doing a motion capture, right, you technically getting a skeleton, and
Right.
an avatar is like a different skin for that skeleton.
hmm
So you can put a different skin, and the skin could be in human, to some extent animals,
Right.
human with different age, gender, ethnicity.
Right. Right. And so
So
this was like, was this like version 1 of your technology? So this was like
yes, that
version
was
1.
version 1. So
Okay.
because we will need that motion capture studio to start recording vocabularies anyway. And it's like, wow, there could be another really, really nice byproduct, and could be, again, capturing the storytelling in sign language to the next level. I think this video, if I'm not mistaken, just 88K views, right? The number of deaf people in New Zealand, 4,000. The storytelling is so cool, it could be beyond just deaf community.
Arash shows what happens when AI opens education to people shut out of it for decades. Next up, Pene Barton from Crimson Global Academy takes that idea home, literally. She's already built her son a personalized AI teacher and says real AI-driven teachers are only 3 to 5 years away.
Have you ever read The Diamond Age? This book by Neil Stephenson. He's the sci-fi writer and writes about this world in the future where there's this kind of unequal society, and like the very rich folks, they give their kid this basically kind of AI tablet called like the primer. This thing learns about kind of what you are from a very young age, and then like kind of teaches you very like exactly how you'd imagine like the best personal tutor would do across everything, right? And the crux of the story is like some one of the kind of like poor kids gets a tablet and like becomes like a genius and like takes over and like changes the society. I guess that's sort of, when I was doing kind of at tech companies, that was like always seen as the holy grail of ed tech, is like this sort of the young lady's primer is what it was called. And people thought it was the iPad for a while, right? Where like you could just give kids this thing and like they could go and like create worlds in Minecraft, websites, they could do whatever they want. And now AI is taking that to a whole new level. And you mentioned, your son interacts with like Alexa and Siri and stuff. Do you see at some point you kind of don't need an adult kind of mediating that experience? Like at some point AI, and I think we're very close to that, just gets good enough where like you just give your son that tutor, and like that tutor just like is exactly tailored to him or her, kind of always on. You don't need to like go to class at 6 o'clock or 5, whatever, like at a certain time. It just like does it whenever you want to, and like pushes you and allows you to explore any interest. At that point, like, what's the point of going to class or even having like even if it's online, if it's easy?
And that's where you'll start to see there are some subjects that I see that becoming quite straightforward for over the next, like, absolutely, I think we will have that in the next like 5 years. At this point, there is still a lot of flaws. I mean, you think about the environmental impacts, you think about how those models are trained, the bias within those models. Like, I don't think we're there yet, but I love the idea of being there. And I think probably in the next 3 to 5 years, we will absolutely have AI-driven like teachers working in proper, the ones I've seen right now. So, a lot of uproar from students on them. I don't think we're quite there yet, but absolutely, I think we will get there. And then school will become more of that. It will become more like discussion. It will become more project-based. It will become more putting that into practice. Because like, great, you can like have that discussion and how learn that concept, but then like, how are you putting it into practice? And I expect that's where we will see more of these, school anchoring around, great, like, let's launch your own business. Let's put this all into practice. Let's, go and take part in this, model United Nations type experience. You will see more of that in practice learning, and there's absolutely still a role for that. And I see the role of the teacher is also helping. There is this model, if you think about like AI driven, and right now the way it is like good prompt, good result. But how does the student know the best place to start? How does it know what it doesn't know? And so I see teachers that have that experience of going through this over many, many years, being able to go and then being able to provide that guidance back kind of as part of this like AI teacher student team, to be able to kind of refine what it is they're covering. Because in a world where it's all student-led, there is always going to be this gap if you don't know what you don't know. and being able to sort of help that. And then there's also that piece of how do you create learning experiences that are shared and synchronous? Because if we think about what makes amazing communities is shared experiences at the same time. And if everyone is having this individual learning experience, then we are then starting to take away from that. And, we talk a little bit earlier about social connection, and that's definitely part of it. But another part is community, and you're having the shared experience in a virtual classroom. If everyone's individual, you start to take away from that, and you start to see that kind of rise in like loneliness and social isolation. So I expect there is going to be kind of more of a little team around it with teachers helping inform, and then that shared learning experience. It's my thoughts off the top of my head. But we can spend longer on that if you want.
So Pene is mapping out the school of the future. But what about the very top, the Ivy League? Jamie Beaton from Crimson Education has gotten thousands of students into Harvard and Yale and shares a bold take on AI avatars replacing elite professors, plus what OpenAI's chief economist told him about the future of jobs.
That's already possible now. Realistic AI avatars that can talk to you in real time and engage in the same way that a teacher will engage with you. Does that change in a good way or in a bad way? Do you think about that?
I think that hopefully that'll be great, because ultimately only a small number of kids can sit in the Yale law class and learn from the guy from Wachtell Lipton about corporate litigation. So having these AI teachers is a really good experience. I have a feeling that, through a combination of the motivational effects where you interact with a mentor who makes you want to be better and holds you to more account, with a grading incentive structure and a diploma that means something in a framework where like the jobs at the end of it are very lucrative, that whole structure will be very differentiated compared to like just your AI coach that ultimately will be harder to properly incentivize you to really commit to it. So I think it'll be very enduring, but I'd be delighted if you can replicate that Yale Law School teacher through an AI avatar and that becomes very mainstream. I still think the demand for these skills would be much higher in that world. If anything, in an AI world of abundance, these types of experiences will become more coveted, not less. And you can see that in Manhattan, there's an explosion of these like weird membership clubs. People apply and they sign up and they do the random thing. And they're sort of craving this like exclusive community. So I think if those things are thriving based on very little beyond some, interesting entree in a weird building, these universities that are actually based on a lot of actual value, I think will become more and more desirable. And I see it in Crimson from sort of the world's most prominent business leaders to, first-gen college kids from the Maori community in New Zealand. It's a very universal aspiration to go to these places. And I think people love to hate on the universities because most people are getting rejected, but it is fundamentally a very desirable product.
What do you think about, how does education kind of fit in a world where, a lot of people prognosticate 40% or 50% or 60% white collar jobs will kind of now be around next, probably over 5-10 years, whatever pick your favorite like prognostication metric, right? Because of AI.
I actually on a call earlier today with the chief economist of OpenAI. It was very interesting. And I asked him this exact question. And I asked him this because a couple of years ago, I asked a mentor of mine, Larry Summers, will AI basically create mass job loss? And what he said is, in every major technology revolution, people are scared of job loss, but the net effect is always job creation. And I do have this feeling that in an AI world, if you have these amazing AI agents, there's still some ratio of human to agent that you need. And I suspect that all this boost in productivity will create an explosion of new types of jobs. And I suspect that overall the amount of net employment will actually go up, not down. It might change the kind of jobs you do, but I have an instinct. Like I find it hard to believe that this is a technology breakthrough so revolutionary that it rewrites all the laws of the economy that have taken place through all previous revolutions. So I'm kind of optimistic that actually there may be some massive job loss of certain types of existing roles, but there will probably be more stimulating, more interesting jobs in the AI world that we'll be able to look forward to.
Reimagining school is one thing, but what happens once you're already in the workforce? Finn built an entire internal AI curriculum for his staff because, as he puts it, entire industries are about to face their own Rust Belt moment. Let's get into it.
But the actual process of getting AI inside a business, people using it at scale is something that really interested me. So I've got a co-founder who's running an amazing business called Expanse.com over in New Zealand, in Auckland, with a super small team. But the idea came, he was visiting in Brazil and helping me out with some stuff inside the company. And we were talking like, how do you implement like best practice prompting? What models to be using? What's the future of like, are you going to have like a model that is expert for, legal work or data science work or copywriting or anything, any sort of process that's inside a business? And how do you get that there ramped up super quick? So we built Expanse. I did the pre-seed of $1 million US to get that started, which is thinking about the future of humans and with co-working with AI. Inside that platform, we've got all the different LLMs available. So you can have access to super cheap models, super expensive models, big thinking models, et cetera, et cetera. You organize all your prompts, everything, every workflow and prompt that you have for automating and getting the productivity gains inside your business, organized and then socialize. So shareable across departments with all the other people inside the business. Like we tested this here at Fluency. So we had to build, I was like, okay, I want to get really good at this topic. I kind of put in a head of AI education, and we built a course that we taught to all of our team. And then we had an actual kind of like a university project where they had to deliver to us automating their job. So find a process that was either a pain for a student or a pain for themselves and automate it. We had 165 different projects delivered, of which 40 of them we took to production inside the business. So this looking internally and teaching staff how to use best practice AI and then building the tooling and the platforms around that is something that I've been looking at really, really carefully, because there's two really big pieces here. One is major groups inside the workforce are going to miss this platform shift and this technology shift and will get left behind. It's kind of like the idea of the Rust Belt in the United States. There are people that worked inside mining and then or construction or steel, and then it's just gone, right? When we outsource these jobs in history. So I'm concerned with the teaching of people to be able to keep up with this. So I've got a couple of projects in this space and the investments in the tooling around it so that it's truly giving the data governance that businesses need and insight from managers and for CEOs looking down into how it's been used inside organizations. It's something that I'm investing a lot of time and money in.
Thank you for tuning in to TechMates. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with friends. We'll be back soon with more stories of Kiwi and Aussie founders reshaping the future and disrupting down under. Until next time, keep dreaming big and daring to disrupt.